Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Selamat datang ke Teh Tarik Podcast. Apa kabar geng? Sehat?
Sihat, Alhamdulillah.
Sudah habis exam budak-budak?
Iya, apa kabar?
Alhamdulillah sehat. Sibuk-sibuk lah.
Busy makin kali sekarang.
Busy-busy making lah. Lepas tu mau prepare untuk the new semester lagi. New semester. Kali ni ada agak cepat sikit lah. Pasal towards puasa.
Ya,
Dah lama lagi mau puasa. Lepas tu raya. Tapi iyalah, teruskan kehidupan.
Next
Teruskan
semester pun tak lama lagi buka sudah.
Betul. Itulah. Okey. Jadi hari ini kita kembali lagi ke Teh Tarik Podcast dan akan membincangkan isu yang sebenarnya sangat pressing issue. Okey, kalau di Sabah ni kan kita sebenarnya paling terkenal lah, saya rasa satu majority of the Malaysian cakap 8 daripada 10 daerah termiskin datang daripada Sabah. Which is fact lah.
We are popular for the wrong reason sometimes,
Popular for the wrong reason. And then kan not only that tau. Bukan setakat kita adalah negeri termiskin di Sabah, kita juga sebenarnya merekodkan kadar pengangguran yang paling tinggi di Malaysia.
Statistik dia macam mana?
Statistik dia, bila kita tengok statistik, kita selalu open dosem kan, open statistik Malaysia tu. Bila dia ada satu macam open dosem ni, dia shock sikit, dia infografik kan. Jadi bila kau tengok dia boleh pergi daripada Malaysia, state, parlimen to dun, very specific. So that's why I totally like use the open dosem tu. Dan kalau kita tengok yang general punya, yang state punya kan. So bila kita tengok ada part ekonomi tu, the unemployment tu adalah benda yang paling penting sebenarnya. Dan sebenarnya isu ni dia menjadi bualan hangat di luar lah. Kadang-kadang kita punya mama-mama, anak-anak kan, aduh pening anak aku tiada kerja. Lepas tu kita pergi sana, pening, how come my son doesn't have the work apa semua. Jadi kita sebenarnya sedang berhadapan dengan masalah pengangguran. Jadi last saya check statistik data itu adalah 8.1% lah. Okay.
Kadar pengangguran
8.1, which is a very very high lah.
So meaning that daripada 100 labor force di Sabah ni 8 akan menganggur.
8 confirm menganggur begitulah. Bukannya confirm lah, tapi memang akan menganggur lah begitu kan, mengikut the data lah. Jadi oleh itu kita cuba mengupas lagi lah, since kita punya Teh Tarik ni kan kita mau fokus kepada ekonomi dan kita mau fokus kepada Sabah. Jadi penting untuk kita sentuh isu ini, dan penting untuk kita bawakan orang-orang yang terlibat dengan pembuat dasar, yang orang cakap close to the corridor of power macam tu. Jadi ini pun sama juga, saya merayu juga, please join us because we need your input macam tu. So tanpa membuang masa, kita perkenalkan sekali lagi Datuk Dr. Yaakob Johari. Datuk, terima kasih.
Alhamdulillah, terima kasih
sebab berjoin podcast kami dalam episod yang seterusnya, sama seperti episod sebelum ini juga.
Sikit masa lagi Datuk boleh saya jadi co-host untuk Teh Tarik Podcast ni Datuk.
Ini biarlah orang-orang muda ni, kami ni tukang sharing idea.
Betul. Itulah tu pentingnya tu Datuk. Macam mana orang-orang yang close to the corridor of power, pembuat dekat dengan pembuat-buat dasar, melihat angka-angka ekonomi, polisi, boleh memberi input kepada generasi baru seperti kami dan meneruskan legasi lah. If we can do better, much baguslah kan. Jadi macam soalan saya tadi Datuk, Sabah merekodkan kadar pengangguran tertinggi. Saya cek 8.1% Datuk. Apa masalah ni Datuk?
Ini barangkali bagus kita mengimbas kembali dan buat some comparison. Ini kalau kita lihat official statistics mengenai pengangguran di Sabah ini pada tahun 2025 third quarter.
Third quarter. Okay.
Rate of unemployment was at 5.7%. Memang kira nampak ada perkembangan positif lah. Down from 6.2% in Q2 second quarter of 2025. And memang kalau kira significant improvement lah daripada 8.1%. Memang ada,
because to make clear, yang data yang saya tengok tu is 2023.
2023.
So we are doing quite
historically memang ada
improvement,
perkembangan positif. Ya. Tapi walaupun demikian, kita punya unemployment ni masih lagi tinggi. Walaupun dalam suasana ekonomi kita sedang pulih lah daripada pandemik.
Ya.
Malaysia, for example, kalau kita bandingkan kadar unemployment pada tahun ini saja sudah mencapai 2.9%.
Oh,
Very low.
2.9%.
so Sabah, meaningnya Sabah double that unemployment rate of Malaysia.
Almost double.
double,
Jadi
ya.
dari segi ekonomi, kalau unemployment very low ni, dia boleh menyebabkan inflasi. Tapi nampak kadar inflasi kita di Malaysia masih lagi rendah.
Tu.
Jadi kalau kira barangkali they can still push it down. But dia punya scenario is kalau kadar unemployment begitu rendah di Semenanjung, dia seharusnya dalam satu negara we should play a role di mana kita punya excess labor ataupun excess demand, either one way, either dari Sabah pergi Semenanjung ataupun bawa projek-projek ataupun industri yang pesat berkembang ke Sabah. And that is possible. You can create fiscal incentive, cukai yang lebih kuat to encourage, for example, industri yang pesat membangun di Semenanjung Malaysia, di Pulau Pinang terutamanya, yang related to this digital economy. We must be able to be able to benefit from all this spillover. Kalau tidak, kadar pengangguran di situ lagi rendah, and you will start pulling inflation. Jadi that's one way to adjust. And kalau kita tengok di peringkat nasional pun, apabila kita tengok kadar pengangguran turun begitu, pembangunan ekonomi dia pun kira agak pesat bagi negara yang kira sudah mencapai tahap middle income economy. Kita dapati pembangunan kadar KDNK di Malaysia, kadar pertumbuhan pada tahun lalu telah mencapai 4.9%. Lebih besar daripada estimate banyak fund manager lah.
Iya.
So I think this is something which is positive. So dalam hal yang demikian, kalau kita tengok di Malaysia ini, di Sabah ini, pada tahun 2024 kadar pertumbuhan ekonomi kita hanya mencecah 1.1%. Dan dari segi pada tahun lalu, pertumbuhan ekonomi kita agak sluggish. Kalau kira pada tahun 2023 kita punya kadar GDP masih lagi di bawah kadar tahun 29 apabila kita mula menghadapi suasana ekonomi yang agak lemah. Dan kalau kita lihat struktur ekonomi Sabah ini pun sebenarnya memang dia dari segi tenaga kerja, dia menampung lebih banyak dari dalam sektor pertanian dan construction, pembinaan. These are the sectors yang yang banyak kerja-kerja kosong. Tetapi graduate kita, tenaga kerja ramai sudah yang mula mencecah mendapat degree, diploma semua ni. Jadi the expectation is a little bit higher. They don't expect to go into this plantation or construction sector, and this area pun yang banyak dalam sektor-sektor ni kebanyakannya dari kalangan tenaga kerja kira dari
Kurang mahir.
luar lah, kira dari kerja asing.
Foreign workers.
So kita punya masalah, saya tengok memang kita ada structural challenges. Kita selalu dengar isu pasal mismatch ini. Itu satu. Kedua, low wages, kadar bayaran rendah. Kalau dalam sektor pertanian, dalam plantation sektor ni, that is why dia tidak dapat menarik pada masa inilah tenaga kerja dari kalangan orang-orang tempatan. Dan selain daripada itu, saya ingat yang penting juga dari segi keadaan ekonomi semasa kita yang tidak begitu tidak begitu
Stabil ataupun
tidak begitu
Conducive.
tidak dapat berkembang. Macam we seems to be
Stagnant.
stagnant in that position for about 4-5 years macam itu, and this is not healthy. There must be something that need to be done so that kita boleh beri suntikan atau jump start the economy. I think this is quite important. And also pada hemat saya taburan-taburan di mana kerja-kerja tu wujud pun kira tidak begitu selaras dengan the supply of labor force. For example, kebanyakan yang plantation sector ni bukan tempat yang senang bagi orang baru graduates datang ke situ. Tempat yang jauh, terpencil semua ni. Kecuali dalam construction, tapi construction sector ni orang yang biasa tengok komputer, is going to be very difficult for them to start doing so I think these are among the reason why kita punya unemployment ini agak stubborn. Ada perkembangan tapi agak slow. Perkembangan ekonomi pun saya rasa masih boleh ditingkatkan lagi.
So maksud Datuk di sini adalah salah satu faktor kenapa unemployment ataupun pengangguran itu tinggi di Sabah ini adalah disebabkan oleh, yang pertama sekali adalah pembangunan ekonomi kita yang rendah berbanding pertumbuhan ekonomi Malaysia sendiri, sebab it is expected yang GDP kita ataupun KDNK kita itu akan berkembang hanya sekitar 1 ke 2%, lebih rendah berbanding pertumbuhan KDNK negara dalam lingkungan 4,9, 5% setahun. Itu yang pertama. Dan yang kedua juga adalah disebabkan oleh persaingan, bukan bilang persaingan tetapi peluang-peluang pekerjaan yang sebenarnya hanya diisi oleh pekerja-pekerja asing, disebabkan oleh nature ataupun sifat pekerjaan itu yang tidak selari dengan kehendak dan juga attainment ataupun academic attainment kita punya tenaga buruh di Sabah ni lah. Dan satu lagi perkara kan Datuk yang mungkin kita boleh bincang juga adalah berkenaan tentang underemployment, yang mana rata-rata kita punya tenaga buruh di Sabah ini bekerja dalam bidang yang sebenarnya tidak selari ataupun mungkin juga berada di bawah kelayakan akademik dan juga experience diorang itu. Jadi ini juga antara isu yang mungkin kita boleh bincangkan Datuk, macam mana seriusnya di Sabah ini, dan mungkin cara fikir macam mana cara kita boleh address the issue in the context of Sabah.
Nanti ada tu sebelum saya chip in juga kan, because when we look at the data kan, the new data, the numbers is quite menakutkan lah juga Dato', is 35.5% for last year. So maksudnya kan macam mana tu, 100 orang graduate, 35% bekerja di bawah diorang punya tahap pendidikan gitu. Dan underemployment ni dia those yang ada degree tertiary education tapi dia bekerja di bawah itu. Itu yang the numbers dia tidak di Sabah, kita dah nampak lah the numbers lah. Jadi 35.5% ni is national data.
So mungkin maksudnya dia ni mungkin dia ada degree tapi dia kerja di petrol station,
buat
dia kerja
Grab,
jadi promoter ataupun buat Grab. It's a decent work tapi dia sebenarnya di bawah kelayakan pekerja ataupun tenaga buruh kita itulah kan.
Betul lah. Ya. Apa masalah Datuk?
Ya, kalau saya tengok memang is a real waste lah. Pasal we train them so that they are competent, layak in sectors yang kalau kira boleh menjana pendapatan yang tinggi. Tapi kalau kita tidak dapat mewujudkan peluang pekerjaan yang sesuai dengan kelulusan masing-masing. Tentunya ini mempunyai implikasi yang besar, bukan saja dari segi wastage. It's public money. Okay, we use and they don't generate return. But it is also potentially orang kata time bomb, because these are smart people. And smart people ini, they are very restless. Especially we have talked in past episode about Gen Z.
Betul.
And they have high expectation, and they access tengok macam mana peluang-peluang pekerjaan tempat lain. Kalau tengok macam mana tempat-tempat yang tidak berpotensi, salah satu cara dia mungkin kita boleh encourage them to kerja, to work di tempat-tempat yang memerlukan, seperti di Semenanjung. Don't worry, we can provide immediate incentive dulu, tapi kita encourage them kemudian balik, bawa pengalaman-pengalaman apa semua tu, maybe wujudkan industri baru berasaskan pengalaman yang mereka telah dapat. Umpamanya kalau kita encourage them to do a little bit of reskilling or retraining and exposure, they can work in Penang umpamanya dalam sektor semiconductor. By the time they come back, they could be ready to be a startup and initiating their own venture, because dalam sektor-sektor ni, you can see dalam sektor baru ni, dia membuka ruang yang luas bagi usahawan-usahawan baru. So we must be prepared. Kalau kita tidak dapat mewujudkan peluang pekerjaan sekarang di Sabah, we must be prepared to orchestrate this. Tapi the idea is to get them trained and then encourage them to come back later as usahawan. So kita create the new special incentive lah. Kalau macam dalam sektor AI ke apa semua ni, kita create sandbox and give the incentive to join the to create new opportunities. Jadi saya ingat potential itu, I don't want to be too pessimistic, tapi kalau kita regard business as usual, we are happy sekarang ini, okay, new government form semua tu, tapi kita tengok sektor pertanian macam itu juga. Lepas itu plantation mesti macam tu juga, dominated by foreign laborers, and this new gen ini going into the labor force over the next 5 years. You just imagine, you just multiply. So kalau kita tidak buka sufficient job opportunities for them in Sabah, ataupun tidak ada program where they can be fully optimally utilized at the level they at least expect decent income based on what they can contribute, I think it could be, as I mentioned earlier, could be a time bomb. So ini, I don't want to be very pessimistic. I believe under the current scenario, the government has been listening, and they start. You can see they start from attempt to bagi nafas baru kepada JLC. So barangkali there are potential opportunities where JLC juga boleh main peranan dalam mengurangkan kadar pengangguran dengan membuka peluang dalam sektor-sektor tertentu. Umpamanya sekarang ni saya belum nampak JLC di Sabah yang dedicated and focusing on semiconductor, or focusing on the digital economy.
Betul.
Working to set up smart city. Jadi these are potential. We can see this di Semenanjung. Bukan saja pelabur-pelabur dari Malaysia. Sekira dari seluruh dunia. They go to Malaysia. Bukan saja di Penang, actually they go to Klang Valley, they go to Johor apa semua ni. So it's just a matter of time before they come to Sabah. So before kita just kita tunggu saja, we may as well create a mechanism whereby yang orang menganggur, highly educated penganggur ini, kita organize them so that don't force them to work in the plantation, get them work to in tempat-tempat yang requiring their expertise, and then create opportunity, provide incentive so that they can come back once they acquire some experience.
Yeah.
So kalau kalau macam yang kita punya pekerja-pekerja yang memang yang professional accountant ke apa semua ni, kalau tidak ada di Sabah, expose them to work in GLCs ke di Semenanjung public listed companies. By the time they have experience, let them come back to Sabah. Give incentive. So I think this orang kata there is always a way kalau kita determine to find a solution. Tapi kalau kita semua kira is a business as usual sort of things, kita leave the plantation sectors as they are, apa semua tu, lepas tu yang penganggur ini kita kita mention that we are listening tapi nothing concrete is done. So I think that's going to be a problem waiting to explode.
So maksudnya di sini kan Datuk, macam kalau kita lihat kepada teori demand and supply lah kan. So memandangkan kita Sabah ni mempunyai kadar pengangguran yang tinggi, sepatutnya kita punya kos buruh itu murah. So bila kos buruh kita murah, so bila let's say for example kita venture dalam satu-satu sektor tu, dia punya cost will be lower, we can meaning that kita boleh venture dalam satu-satu industri itu. So maksud saya di sini adalah macam kita adakah inisiatif di Sabah misalnya to cater certain demand in peninsula or abroad, kita buat operasi itu, penghilangannya, productionnya, industrinya di Sabah disebabkan oleh kos buruh yang murah di Sabah ni. So that at least it can address to certain degree the unemployment issue in Sabah ni lah. So maksudnya di sini apa? Rather than kita export kita punya pekerja ke Semenanjung Malaysia, kita bawa industri itu di Sabah due to our lower wages, mungkin lower natural resources, kita supply the product to Semenanjung Malaysia, Sarawak and abroad. So do we have that initiative tu di Sabah buat masa sekarang ni lah?
That's why jadi I mentioned tadi, there are two ways, either kita hantar pergi sana ataupun kita bawa the industry pergi Sabah. Tapi sekarang ini kalau kita balik pergi isu about GLC, kalau kita try to develop the sectors, you cannot just say that now this is our policy. What are the measures you are taking? Actually, kalau kira in certain sectors during during my time as dia punya CEO, we have attempted to bawa industri pergi Sabah ni, tapi in sectors kalau kira yang memang after some years kita tengok ada resistant to change. Jadi it's fine. For example, dalam sektor plantation, back to plantations, we can always argue theoretically, we can add value, we can also increase the productivity just by looking at research on dia punya baja ke, kaedah penanaman. Barangkali dalam satu ekar kalau dulu dia punya productivity about 8 tan for the sake of argument. Barangkali to research dia boleh shooting up sampai 20 tan. Which is actually nothing is impossible. I mean from my own experience, macam di KILC, Keningau Integrated Livestock Center. Mula-mula kita start productivity susu tu was just about 7-8 liters per day per cow. Tapi eventually bila kita tengok cara husbandry baru which has been practiced in other countries, kita bawa pergi KLC, the productivity shoot up more than double. So kalau lah palm oil macam itu, barangkali we can afford to pay higher and then boleh recruit more pay better lah. But itu dari segi payment. What about dari segi technology itself? Getting people contributing in the technology dalam leveraging on AI, for example, macam mana you enhance dia punya productivity. These are potentials, but this require a lot more effort and a lot more thinking from the part of the private sector. Jadi ini yang kita kena tengok the reality, which one can address in the short term. Kita punya growing labor force ini. So kalau kita pertumbuhan labor force ini much higher than apa yang kita dapat tarik, so we must be able to be flexible, so that we can benefit from both side. From getting kita punya laborers taking up some job somewhere else and then balik, and also maybe simultaneously getting local players in. Maybe GLC barangkali in the plantation sector, they must lead, they must show that they can develop a model which is bukan saja sustainable, a new model which can pay higher wage, because it uses technology, a lot more AI, and dia boleh increase productivity of oil palm harvesting pun semua. Kalau macam mula-mula tu 1 ekar about 10 people, ini because of automation ke apa semua tu, you only need 1 or 2 people covering a few more acres. So there must be a way, kalau macam state GLC, to look at macam Saim Dabi plantation. They already have this model, and it's just a question of learning from them and get it in Sabah. Kalau private sector rasa susah, let the government GLC lead the way. We have macam Sawit Kinabalu, for example. Sawit Kinabalu, they should look into this. Macam mana kita leverage kita punya labor force, kira graduate semua ni yang well qualified, so that they don't have to go elsewhere. Tapi in the short term, kalau kita tidak dapat open up more opportunities, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be a time bomb. Tapi kalau kita kita become realistic, kita get kita punya plantation sectors, GLC yang dalam plantation sectors play this role, develop a model so that you can absorb these graduates. Kita tengok dalam kita punya construction sectors, let yang GLC states create that environment where, because of application of technology, you can reduce dependence on low wage, low skill laborers ini. For example, using the IBS system, or so many other models sekarang ini. Jadi the government has to lead. GLC must play a role, and then at the same time, yang orang keluar dari universiti ini, they don't stop. So you keep on churning every years. Ini kalau kira you bawa investor apa semua tu pun, it's not easy for them to start operating into 3 years. It takes a lot more time. Jadi I think these are things yang kita barangkali need to think together, academicians, researchers, planners in the government, private operators. Barangkali we should sit down together on this.
Ya, dengan satu perkara lagi kan, Dato', kalau saya boleh check in kan, berkenaan tentang konteks ataupun isu underemployment ini, adalah the mismatch ataupun perselisihan di antara graduan kita dari segi bidang pengajian dan juga demand dalam pasaran pekerjaan itu. Sebab kita tend to notice bagaimana dalam sebahagian program jumlah graduan itu banyak, tetapi demand itu sikit. Ada pula dalam industri yang lain, demand untuk labor force itu banyak, tetapi graduan itu sedikit. So it seems to be there is a mismatch between supply and demand of this labor force. Now, dalam konteks akademik, for sure, bila program itu misalnya dibentuk dan setiap tempoh masa tertentu, kita akan ada curriculum review yang mana kita akan bawa industri untuk sit down together, identify macam mana kita boleh improve the program, macam mana mungkin kita boleh cater the future demand of the industries. Tapi saya mau tanya, ini adalah peranan dalam policy makers ataupun kerajaan dalam orchestrate the interaction ataupun the ecosystem itself di antara industri akademia dan juga government, supaya mismatch itu dapat dikurangkan dan sekaligus boleh mengurangkan masalah underemployment ni. So in the context of Sabah, macam mana tu Dato'?
Ya, ini memang satu yang even unemployment itself is already a difficult issue. Underemployment ni pun kalau as I mentioned tadi bukan saja difficult issue tapi potentially explosive because ini orang pandai-pandai. And to add matters worse lagi saya ingat the question of demographic pattern. Kalau kita tengok kebanyakan university graduates yang kuat yang selalu tend to excel di universiti ni perempuan. Jadi
Betul.
you have to
Pengalaman
take into account juga. These are people yang kira women in the labor force ini. They are not as mobile as men. Jadi we must be able to think about that chances is for them they won't be as mobile as kita discuss tadi yang barangkali people can go to Semenanjung work lepas tu balik semua ni. So we have to get all the stakeholders to sit down because it is not just a solution orang cakap one size fits all type of solution. It requires all stakeholders to play their part. The private sectors must be able to to generate diorang punya return. Kalau diorang kita kata you should take more as part of the national service, tak guna juga kalau you ask them to recruit tapi diorang they are losing, they cannot survive. Actually a good model I think kita should look into is macam this introduced by Khazanah dulu. Remember they graduates, they give them opportunities to work and gain experience. I've forgotten what's the name of that.
My step, that one.
Ada that program dulu. In fact, many of the graduates from this program, I remember, I roped them in Sedia.
Slim scheme latihan industri.
Slim pun satu. Ada lagi satu earlier, orchestrated by Khazanah. And that proved to be very successful. Barangkali kalau kita start get a program where masing-masing GLC play a part. Mana-mana yang graduates apa semua tu you bagi ruang for them at least to acquire some experience. Once they have experience, other company pun prepared to recruit them pasal sudah ada track record compared to fresh graduates.
Betul.
Actually masa saya di IDS dulu, I used to have quite a number of these graduates.
Fresh graduate.
No place, I put them in the conference room and but the conference room can entertain banyak orang. But then they are working with our researchers. And eventually many of them start ada sudah CV, sudah ada booking experience. So they show that they are good at writings, good in research apa semua tu. Ada yang jadi PTD apa semua. Some of them I see dah jadi peringkat pengarah-pengarah apa semua ni. Quite senior. Jadi I think at least you give them ruang rather than for them to just move around without positive experience, without contributing the experience to generate outcome.
Itu dia tadi, banyak sebenarnya solution, tapi yang penting be careful with the time bomb of the underemployment ni, because kita sudah nampak di sekitar dunia, Indonesia, Nepal, yang terbaru I think Iran also ada rusuhan because of this underemployment. Yalah, kita penat-penat belajar, dijanjikan kerja, bila kita keluar daripada kerja dah dapat kerja, ataupun kerja below our education level lah. So dan Datu juga cakap tadi berkenaan dengan the demographic, saya baru terperasan actually kita punya student pun actually banyak perempuan, dan kebanyakannya excel ni kebanyakannya perempuan kan. So kalau in the long run nanti dia akan bagi impact yang tidak seimbang dan tidak balance juga lah kan. So mungkin kita boleh ambil sedikit inisiatif berehat sekejap dan mengambil nafas dululah dengan isu yang agak berat ini.
Yeah.
So jangan ke mana-mana, kita continue selepas ini.
Okey, kembali lagi kita ke episod TV Teh Tarik yang mana dalam episod kali ini kita akan membincangkan tentang isu ataupun masalah employability, keboleh pekerjaan di Sabah. Tadi kami berbincang dengan panelis berkenaan tentang faktor-faktor yang membawa kepada masalah employment dan juga underemployment di Sabah ini, dan mungkin juga Datuk kita boleh teruskan dengan satu lagi isu yang kita boleh kaitkan dengan underemployment itu, iaitu brain drain. Sebab ialah seperti yang kita ketahui, bila mana kita punya graduan anak-anak muda di Sabah ini tidak mendapat pekerjaan ataupun pekerjaan itu tidak sesuai dengan kelayakan masing-masing, they tend to go either sama ada ke Semenanjung Malaysia ataupun mungkin ada juga yang pergi ke luar negara. Dan mungkin diorang ni bila selesa sudah hidup di luar sana, tidak bercadang pun untuk balik semula ke Sabah ni. So bagi pandangan Datuk, isu ni severe ataupun serius ataupun tidak di Sabah ni, dan apa dia punya implication terutamanya dalam jangka masa panjang untuk negeri kita?
Ya, yalah, ini memang serious issue lah kalau dia brain drain. It's not a question of macam yang kita bincang tadi. Kalau yang kita bincang tadi, yang orang kerja di Semenanjung, mungkin that one could be an emplacement. The proponent is the government. Tapi kalau brain drain ini, dia basically at their own free will. Government tak ada ke apa semua tu, dia tengok tak ada opportunity, dia cari a green pasture elsewhere. So kalau yang orang memang sudah dia punya objective looking for green pasture elsewhere, kalau dia dapat, don't expect them to come back. So that is why the government must be macam doktor, dia pakai stethoscope, dia always understand this and take note of this trend, because these are human capital. You bawa lah apa semua ni, kalau you don't have the right human capital, nothing works, and eventually you will have to get people outside to come in, and lagi masalah. So I think kalau tengok dari segi statistik pun, Department of Statistics study recently found that 72% of job seekers now have higher education. 72% of job seekers have higher education. So you just imagine, kalau the employment condition can absorb kira about 10% of this saja. The rest, what they are going to do?
Yeah.
So these are things yang I think no simple solution, tapi the outcome is very serious. Kalau it is a brain drain, you would expect them to go out and they don't come back, it's already a loss, because you have been investing in the cost of educating them without any return. So I think nanti kalau you kata you need people, you keep on investing and getting the same output and no return. So there must be somewhere that this address. So either kita take a lot more aggressive measures to drive to jumpstart our economy. Never mind kalau kita pakai pump priming, kita just spend just to get the economy moving. Once the momentum is there, there will be a requirement for professionals. You get a lot of these people, and then people will start having office, and then they need all these people yang qualified semua ni. We have to start somewhere, and kira orang cakap macam jump starting the car, pump priming ini. So I think kalau kita ada all this excess revenue apa semua ni, kira lah macam from that 40% ke apa semua ni, make sure that people feel the impact the unemployment level, the graduates apa semua tu see that there is future for them. Kalau they see, I mean, this doesn't have any impact in generating employment opportunities, I think memang it will be a loss. You will continue to have this brain drain, and that means dalam kita punya senario ni, kalau kita punya labor cost pun makin low, orang yang train, they don't want to go there, they will go somewhere else, and the cycle keeps on moving. You're heading nowhere. So we have to take a firm action on this. Get the private sector, the government must show the way. Where do they want to push the next sectors? Are they committed to, for example, embrace the digital economy? This might be high tech, tapi as I think you can see so many models. I have been talking about. I have seen how China transformed itself within generation.
Betul.
In fact, when I first went to China, I was obviously in my early career. You can see my picture, tengok masih lagi pakai semua ni.
Tahun bila tu Dato'?
China was still belum opening up. Baru start
open up
di Shenzhen. And they started having this electronic factories. When you go there, I went there, tengok bila you tengok dari luar, packs of items ready for export. Philips punya product, electronic products. But when you go into the production processes, dia macam garage saja. Kadang-kadang boleh tengok macam kandang ayam pun yang besar tu. Lepas itu they have all shelf. Kalau kandang ayam ni tempat dia orang makan. Ini shelf tu tempat dia letak electronics punya parts to be assembled. So all the assemblers are sitting besides, and they just pass. Tengok, at the end of the day, you have many of these electronics product produced, and this happens within one generation. Recently, bukan juga recently lah, maybe 7 years ago, I went back to China. Tengok, that Shenzhen, it becomes one of the electronic hubs. Silicon Valley of China. And just a few years. And just imagine, Sabah masih lagi kita macam ni. Don't blame the government. I think we don't have that decisive decisive move to build up where others have left in the past. Balik kita talk about this question of reinventing the wheel. So China never reinvented the wheel. They learned from Germany when they started going into high-tech production. They offer German company to come in and build all these heavy industries, and then give them all sort of incentive, but on the condition that they get the local people to man the operation. Tapi yang saya takut di sini, kita ada investor dari luar. Tengok pekerja-pekerja dia pun dia bawa orang luar. Jadi kita sini ni apa yang kita learn? No technology transfer. Macam yang saya tengok di China tu, they did. Another model is kalau you tengok even South Korea. I used to learn economics when it comes to South Korea in my student days. It's one of the poorest country in the world.
Pasca perang Korea kan.
Right. And barangkali yang berperang tu, I was not there lah. I was not born yet. Tapi learning the economics of it in the 70s apa semua ni, there was still a poor economy. So, but then maybe ada different scenario lah, because US pun ada agenda, so they invested heavily in South Korea because of that perang itu kan. So they want to pull this on their side. So it was driven by American investment, and they transformed South Korea, and that's within one generation. South Korea lama lagi. You look at Turkey ni lagi fresh, because ini pun during my time tengok, this is you don't hear them producing all of this high tech products. You look at them now, and some predicted that they are going to be one of the world powers, because actually even the other Central Asian nation pun sudah see their potensi. I mean their capability, and they are tagging along. So kalau it can be done, susah kalau kita nak tengok yang jauh-jauh. Singapore. In fact, Singapore is one of the NICs yang, you remember we talk about this flying geese formation hypothesis.
Yeah.
So they have done it, and our starting point almost similar.
Yeah.
They were, we were together.
Together.
Yeah, why can't we be like them?
Yeah.
Jadi we don't have to be like them in apa ni, tapi the capability. Because the people in Singapore, they are not like they are not the Turks, and the Turks have done it. South Koreans have done it. So we must make it a point that I think it's pointless to put all this blame game. Kalau ada blame game, barangkali we have to blame ourselves for allowing ourselves to accept the scenario we are in. And macam kalau kira kita a little bit agak tertinggal lah sikit in this regard.
Satu perkara bahkan Datuk yang selalu orang sebut lah, macam satu conception lah, persepsi lah tentang Sabah ni kan. Dorang selalu cakap Sabah ni dia punya industri itu kecil, ataupun pasaran dia kecil disebabkan oleh populasi dia itu yang kecil. Tapi kalau kita tengok kita punya negeri-negeri jiran, contohnya macam Singapura dan negeri-negeri yang lain pun boleh maju walaupun dengan jumlah yang kecil itu. So actually dalam konteks Sabah ni kita ada cara ke ataupun wiggle room lah orang bilang untuk bagaimana kita boleh expand our manufacturing sector dan industri-industri yang lain supaya ialah kita dapat tingkatkan kita punya pertumbuhan ekonomi dan address the issue of unemployment. Mungkin maksudnya di sini kita integratekan market kita dengan pasaran di China kah ataupun pasaran di BIM Iaga itu sendiri dan sebagainya.
Yeah, actually you rightly pointed out that kita punya market ini kecil, and that is applicable only kalau kita go into the sectors where kita expect to supply only to the local domestic
market.
very narrow micro domestic kita ini. Tapi kalau kita open up the world, supply to the world, then the scenario will be different. Jadi macam sekarang ini, various incentive provided in terms of intergovernmental agreement on trade through this RCEP semua ni, this comprehensive economic arrangement semua ni, where tariff is very much reduced. So kalau kita leverage on this, we have a bigger market with the very straight agreement that we have. Tapi it looks like we have difficulty to to be very focused in getting into sectors that kita can produce sufficient scale to supply to the rest of the world. Kita tend to supply to kita punya immediate environment. Tapi actually kalau kita open up a little bit saja, we open up to Malaysian market. Malaysian market is 30 million over.
Betul.
Kita open up to the kita punya regional market, BIM Iaga. Sudah around 60 million.
Yeah.
Open up in ASEAN saja, we end up berapa?
600.
Around 500-600 million. Open up lagi within kita punya immediate neighbors, China.
Billion.
So I mean, you just imagine. But the thing is, it has to start somewhere, and that somewhere has to be within ourselves. Inilah kalau kita tengok, kita try to main bola. Lepas itu kita practice only among orang-orang kampung. Kita jadi jago kampung. So what you need actually is to be prepared to play football with the Argentines or the Brazilians. Walaupun you kalah, tapi you learn a lot. So barangkali we should have this spirit. We must be prepared to get out of our comfort zone. Learn from other people. Boleh kita cakap ini kita punya, itulah kita punya apalah. Tapi kalau you don't go anywhere, you are macam jago kampung saja.
Kampung sajalah.
So I think it just open up. I think another parable, if you want to look at it, if you are a fish you have a potential to be a big fish, tapi you kena bagi tempat yang kecil, kolam kecil.
kolam
You
kecil.
cannot grow big.
Betul.
You'll be limited to that sort of things. So I think kita punya mind ini must open up. It's a borderless world. After all, through kita punya AI semua ni, you can sell products all over the world. So why can't we leverage all of this?
Betul.
Jadi I think it's a question of we shouldn't subscribe to this poverty of idea. Open up. I mean, kalau ada idea, don't just macam orang ini try to destroy kita. We must know how to Kalau kira macam perang di Portugis tu, kalau you dengar cerita ada Melaka lawan Portugis tu, macam-macam dia orang punya talk, walaupun it is not part of our time, tapi dia punya parable tu, dia punya cerita tu, dia kata yang si buta dia dia bakar meriam, all sort of things. Bukan si buta, yang tuli dia cakap bakar fire meriam, pasal dia tidak dengar kan. Macam-macam cerita dia lah. But the point is, you get the right people for the right purpose. Jadi I think this is the principle we should stick. Kalau kita put people dalam kita punya board kan, they must be fit for purpose. Kalau kita appoint CEO pun, they must be macam itu, fit for purpose. So kalau you want to be an entrepreneur, make sure you have the right mindset. You want to export, be an exporter, think like an exporter. Tapi kalau you expect you tanam saja, lepas tu tak tahu pun siapa jual apa semua ni. And you takut nanti pergi sana, nanti orang kata ini for kami saja, tidak boleh keluar. Kalau kita
kalau kita relate dengan point Datuk dalam episod yang sebelumnya berkenaan tentang kita punya GLC yang hampir sama dia punya peranan ini kan, mungkin instead of diorang compete among themselves, they should think about how they can go into other markets kan.
Right, other markets, other sectors.
Work together.
In fact yang what boggles me, why tidak ada kita punya GLC take up as they focus on this AI ni, semiconductor. Cuba you academician, researcher, you tengok ni. But it boggles me because actually within the nation pun we have people who started focusing on the AI saja, and startups, and some become unicorn already. People talk about it. Kita punya language, kita punya narrative macam belum lagi sampai macam tu. Jadi ini I would urge you people yang muda-muda ni, you take up this challenge. Because kami ni, saya tukang share with you saja what I have observed.
Now you already build the foundation for us.
Yeah.
Okay, jadi itu dia tadi, a lot of things yang need to be observed. So mungkin kita take a break lagi sekali sebelum kita sambung ke sesi seterusnya. Jangan ke mana-mana. Okey, kita kembali lagi ke sesi podcast Teh Tarik. Kepada yang menonton, jangan lupa like, jangan lupa komen, jangan lupa share dan jangan lupa subscribe. Kita ada Facebook, kita ada TikTok, dan yang paling penting kita ada YouTube. So untuk episod ni kita bercerita pasal unemployment, pengangguran dan juga underemployment. Jadi yang paling penting sekarang ni actually kan apa sebenarnya target policy ataupun strategic intervention yang kita patut implement untuk actually mitigate the issues lah, untuk solve. Bukan kerja yang senang. I think there is no economist in the world yang boleh solve the unemployment or underemployment. It will always be there lah. Tapi yang penting kita mau mitigate this issue because the numbers is quite worrying. So itu yang kita mau mitigate gitu. Kita lessen dulu the issues. Jadi apa Datuk yang paling sesuai policy ataupun any strategic that come to your mind?
Yeah, when you talk about intervention, basically you're talking about the government lah, kan? Yeah. So in this case, we look at what government can do. So government has many instruments in directing the economic growth and the sectoral growth as well. Tapi memanglah dalam senario directing growth ini, kita perlukan collaboration between federal and state agencies. Because for this, we need to work with people in EPU, planners, and kalau boleh, we also need to engage with federal GLCs, and maybe a better collaboration could be federal GLCs working with local state GLCs to venture into new sectors. Barangkali kalau ada yang GLC di Semenanjung yang ada barangkali ada exposure in the high growth sector, in the semiconductor, in AI, that sort of things, we can partner with them and bring some of the industries to Sabah. And we can, Federal Ministry of Finance can create specific fiscal incentive, provide a strong incentive. Maybe macam disedia dulu kita buat bagi 10 years income tax exemption. Ini kalau growth sector ni memang diorang ada potential for profitability. So to entice them, bagi strong fiscal incentive, relocate to Sabah, because eventually di sana you will have all this pressure in terms of rental increase, apa semua tu, labor cost increase. Jadi kita try to so kalau kita expect private sector saja, they might respond to fiscal incentive. Tapi kalau kita take the government agency together, GLC apa semua ni, it might shorten that period. So in this process, since kita tengok state government pun taking a serious look and on GLC, we may as well put this on the table. Mana GLC yang kita boleh encourage to partner with major GLC. Kalau macam di plantation, partner them with Sam Dabi. And I believe kalau Sam Dabi tengok ada value, they will be prepared to come in. As far as they are concerned, apart from creating value, being a party to this gear up strategy, I think they should be able to generate linkages to the region, to Sabah, Sarawak. So walaupun kita kata this is could be in the national interest, tapi it should be such that it is a win-win scenario. Sabah GLC win, they also So I think it is in their interest. Kalau I'm taking the case of macam Saim Dabi, because they also invest in Indonesia apa semua ni, they have some exposure in Sabah. Why don't you work with state agents? They work with state agencies, bawa dia teknologi yang all this unmanned vehicle, unmanned using, boleh buat harvesting using AI semua ni, put it in Sabah, and kita work on government to government basis, promoted by the state, and then you work with Ministry of Finance, create fiscal incentive, and kita kata, okay, we have this labor force, we are going to train, you just provide your timeline. So that means by the time they set up their facility, we already channel the graduates. I think this is something that worth considering. It's a win-win. GLC Sabah win, Semenanjung GLCs win, and unemployment they can reduce, and they can contribute towards state's development and drive new sectors. So I'm thinking, bagi focus, for example, on this AI data, this semiconductors, apa semua ni, EV, unmanned vehicles.
Tadi Datuk ada sebut pasal penggunaan robot, high tech, capital intensive punya production lah kan. So ada pendapat yang mengatakan bahawa semua benda-benda ni, contohnya macam penggunaan robot ataupun mesin, automated manufacturing facility lah, dalam erti kata yang lain, akan menjadi satu risiko sebab perlu bersaing, dan for sure akan beating kita punya labor lah di Sabah. Tapi kalau pendapat Datuk lah kan, ini penggunaan mesin ini, is it a threat to our labor force ataupun mungkin sebenarnya jadi satu pemangkin kepada labor force di Sabah ni supaya lagi lebih demand di channel kepada industri-industri yang lain. So pandangan Datuk macam mana tu?
I think kalau kita leave to the market forces, it can go even uh, yalah, market punya reaction ini dia lambat. Kadang-kadang things sudah teruk betul apa semua tu, you want to activate market forces, a lot of things sudah theoretically dia boleh adjust, tapi kalau orang sudah suffer apa semua tu, I mean the difference between market forces is kalau human capital ni dia ada umur.
Yeah.
So you cannot just talk about let the market adjust. But this is where I believe yang masuk JLC ni is good form of intervention. And dari segi macam using automation semua ni, kalau it is planned, because berapa JLC yang masuk, dia punya dia punya demand for certain labourers. Sabah ni bukan ramai sangat, jadi kita boleh tailor, kita boleh predict berapa yang kita punya supply. Kalau tak cukup, kita open up new campus, train them, and then bila kita ada that industry, they will replenish themselves at certain point apa semua tu, they spawn new sectors, new addition new part of the ecosystems. Remember we talk about the complexity theory last time. So this complexity theory is based on bila dia spawn new things and new entities, that new entities bring in new element of competitiveness because of that complexity. So eventually there will be a lot more demand from the ecosystem, not necessarily from the business operation itself. Jadi that's the way how I think kita should start looking the sort of things, the sort of demand created in different area of the ecosystem. So they are related, but they need not necessarily be in the same field. So kalau kita takut macam dalam this kira AI driven factory ni, robotic semua ni, they have less laborers ataupun human capital yang can run them, but that means they will have supply for others in the ecosystem. Tapi kalau kita plan properly, then it might work. Tapi kalau kita tidak plan, semua masuk ke sana, lepas itu graduate kurang demand, because all of this they require less labor force. Then we are going to back to the square one. So that is why bila kita talk about this intervention, then the government must come in. Kalau you tengok the experience of South Korea, China, even Turkey, the government play a role. You look at macam the defense industry, there is a very high powered secretariat in the government to just drive, and the government invest in it, and they know they are investing, they are not just throwing money, they are not just throwing, orang cakap good money after bad money. So you look at it, they created they invested in this let's say macam drone, now they exported all over the world. And in fact the manufacturers of this drone company, now it emerged as the biggest company actually, and it is traded, listed in I think Istanbul Stock Exchange.
Interesting,
Very interesting.
Very interesting.
So itu dia tadi topik yang sangat kritikal untuk negeri Sabah ini, di mana kita sebenarnya di negeri Sabah ni mencatatkan kadar pengangguran yang sangat tinggi, dan bila kita cerita pasal kadar pengangguran ni, we are not talking about isu yang remeh. Kita boleh tengok kita punya anak kita punya anak buah, saudara mara, dan sebahagiannya kita punya jiran, kawan-kawan yang akan mengalami masalah pengangguran ni lah. Jadi terima kasih Datuk kerana highlight a few issue dan some intervention yang sangat valuable. Mungkin kita sebagai akademik kita boleh mungkin kita ready proposal untuk bagi suggestion kepada kerajaan negeri maupun kerajaan pusat in order to address this issue. Pasal kalau tidak dia akan menjadi time bomb kepada, especially coming from the Gen Z, kita nak mau negeri Sabah ini berlakulah rusuhan seperti di negara-negara luar lah, Indonesia, Nepal dan baru-baru ni Iran kan. Jadi with that Datu, thank you so much. Sebelum tu Datu, saya mau tanya satu soalan bahkan Datu yang anulah out of this issue lah. Normally Datu at this consider Datu sudah retired lah kan. Are you still reading the economic indicator newspaper?
Oh, I follow. I mean,
Follow.
this becomes my habit.
Menjadi habit lah.
So I can't afford not to know.
Ya.
Iya, jadi itulah tu. So kalau Dato' yang sudah retired pun follow up the economics, baik apatah lagi kita ni yang memang perlu faham dan mahir selok belok numbers, statistik dan semua ni lah. Pasal kita sekarang ni kan, kerajaan ni kan dia perlu membuat keputusan berdasarkan data. Dia nak boleh main petik-petik begitu saja. Okay? Jadi itu peri pentingnya data dan melihat data up to date dan macam mana kita boleh intervene lah masalah yang agak critical ini. Jadi kita berharap selepas ini Datuk sudi lagi dipujuk untuk kita discuss certain issue. Dan with that kepada penonton, jangan lupa like, jangan lupa share, jangan lupa komen dan jangan lupa subscribe our TV Teh Tarik. Sekian, terima kasih, jumpa lagi.